Alrighty, so, this is kind of a test. I don't have a script for this, but I recorded myself illustrating some new outfits for Melanie and Milsha, and let's see if this works out. Um, uh, so you're gonna notice pretty soon here that I completely give up and I start over all over again because I didn't like the pose that she was in. Um, sometimes that's what happens when you're drawing. You just gotta start over, and that's the thing. So often is there's like a sunk cost fallacy, and especially digitally, it's so easy to start over. So don't be afraid to scrap something that isn't really working out and to start again with a better concept. But that also being said, don't be afraid to just let a picture finish. I know a lot of people who like they never end up finishing their art because they end up unhappy with it and it just kind of sits there and they just never post it or finish it. Don't be afraid to let to let yourself be okay with calling a picture done, and even even a less than perfect product is still experience. But anyway, enough of the life advice. Let's talk about the art actually. So the first thing to think about that I had to think about for designing Melanie and Melsha's new outfits was the big question of should I have them wearing the same thing again? Because that's what they're originally in, like identical dresses, but with different accessories. Um, and I opted to give them kind of equal and opposite outfits. So what I ended up doing is, as you'll see, I'm gonna give Milsha sleeves and ankle high boots, and Melanie will have like a sleeveless outfit but thigh high boots. So that way, it emphasizes their where their weapon is. You know. Um. Wow. This is just a bit harder than I thought. I don't know if this is gonna be a thing. I'll probably at least post this to Patreon. If you're not on Patreon and you're seeing this, then congratulations. That means it ended up becoming available for the public. Uh, this is my first time doing I'm calling them art alongs on my in my files, but that's not a very efficient name. This is my first time doing kind of a quick draw sort of deal, so let me know if the footage is too fast or too slow, or if there's anything specific you want me to maybe do different next time. Uh, I'm also gonna let you know that what I'm using this is Corel Painter 2015, I believe. You don't need to use my specific art program to get the same result as me. There are lots of excellent art programs out there, so don't be caught up in the fact that you don't have the same exact thing that your favorite artist online uses. Cause, cause at the end of the day, they can all do the same thing, just with a couple of differences, you know. So yeah, don't get caught up in that. Even if you just got Krita, even though it's free, I'm pretty sure that still works. Even if you just have MS Paint, it's gonna be a lot harder, but that still works. Yeah. So for Melanie and Milsha's outfits, at first I was thinking about going with another strapless dress design, but I was worried that was too similar to what they originally were in. So then I was thinking about giving them kind of over like neck straps, not like over the shoulder, but just a different cut of dress. But then I thought it'd be fun to kind of cut them up, and not literally, but cut up the outfit. So suits, but where you can still see their midriff, because they do work in a club, so they're professionals, but they're also having fun. um, Weapons are hard for me to draw. I never like drawing weapons. That's why I rarely actually draw. If I do draw yang, I rarely make Ember Celica, or whatever it's pronounced. I rarely make them deployed because weapons are just really hard for me. They're too straight. You can't have wobbly ass lines when you're drawing like a blade, you know? My process, by the way, is you'll notice that I had started with a red rough sketch. That's just for figuring out like the basic body shape and kind of, angling everything properly. Kind of like having a mannequin. That's what that part was. And then here in this dark blue, that's where I add in details. So I know how to make my line art pretty. Sometimes I skip this step and I jump straight into line art. Not always, though. It kind of depends on how much of a grasp you have on the outfit or design already. I flipped the canvas there. Flipping the canvas is helpful because it can help you see if anything is lopsided or if the faces are uneven. So I do suggest flipping the canvas so you can see your art in a new angle. It'll help in the long run if you're working physically. You can just hold it up to a mirror. If you do have Corel Painter and you want to know what brush this is, I'm using the 2B pencil. I like how it tapers. That's fun stuff. Don't be afraid, by the way, to ask me questions. Because I don't know what people would want to know about how I illustrate. Ooh, nice awkward long pause there. That's another thing, this is, like I said, this is my first time, so I don't want this to just be a me vlogging / chit-chatting kind of deal while my art just plays in the background. I would like to try to keep it on topic. But I guess if you've got questions, you can ask them, and I can answer them in the next one, if there is a next one. Still don't know. It's like a pilot, you know? I want to see if this actually works. I think it's a lot of fun. I've never been able to record myself illustrating before. But I like seeing other people's illustrations, like their processes. I think it could be a really fun learning tool because you can look at a finished piece and be like, why does their whatever look so good? Why does it look better than what I do? Or how do they make it look like that? I don't know what I'm doing different, you know? But seeing how they do it actually can help answer all those questions. So it's not just looking at a finished image and being amazed at whatever it is that you were struggling with, but rather it's like a walkthrough of how to do it, kind of a thing. And like something I'll always say is there's not just one right way to do art. If you do something differently from me, that doesn't make you wrong, you know? And that's okay, you know? Don't feel the need to wholesale imitate artists you fancy. Copying them to a degree, like doing some personal sketches kind of in their style or following their process, can be an excellent learning tool. And hey, you might find that how they do it really works well for you, or maybe you'll be like, this isn't for me, kind of a thing, and that's okay. Copying others is an excellent way to learn as an artist. That being said, tracing is not art. If you trace something, you are not learning from it. Tracing is fine if you're like a child, you know, like little kids can do that, and that's okay. But if you are over the age of like 5, you shouldn't be tracing, and you definitely cannot sell whatever you trace. Don't do that. Also, this is just a warning, fun fact. Always credit artists online. People like to repost art a lot, and that's okay, you know? Everyone's excited to see cool fan art. But credit the artists. Do not tweet at me artwork and be like, yo, look at how cool this is. I don't know who drew it though. That's not helpful. Find who drew it and credit them. People make their living that way. They rely on that kind of word of mouth advertisement of look at how cool this art is, so people can come find them and then buy their prints or commission them for, artwork. Always credit the artist. Always, always. If you really liked the art enough to share it with someone, you can do the fucking work it takes to find the name of who drew it, okay? Wow, and the line art's done. I'm gonna add shading now here. This green, by the way, I use that to help me see, because I tend to use a lot of lighter colors. I use white a lot in my art. And that green is just there to help me be able to see the full range. If I do work with a shade of green similar to this, I'll have like an ugly orange square in the background behind that section. It's a medium green. That's important. You don't want to go too light or too dark with your kind of background layer like that, because it'll skew how you perceive values. Most people work on a gray background. I just started with green, so it's kind of what I roll with. There are a couple of different ways that I add shading to art. Some is more like this, where I just kind of do it in the line art, or I'll do hatching, which is a lot of little lines to imply shading. I actually do hatching on this image, so you'll be able to see that. There it is. I've just started hatching in some shading. I'm putting the hatching layer, that's like a different layer than the rest of my line art, because I'm gonna lower its opacity so that it's just not as kind of stark. I can never figure out if I like really dark shading or if I prefer really soft shading, Another way to add shadows is kind of doing cell shading, where you just, you do it in the color. I don't do that for this image, but there's plenty of examples of that online. Now starts the fun part. It's coloring. Coloring's my favorite part, because that's where a character gets to really come to life. When I was a little kid, I always used to imagine that my drawings were not, they were stuck, and they were kind of in a state of limbo until I colored them, and then they could come to life and be real, and so that's probably where my love for color theory really originated. You probably noticed that I keep pulling up an image of Melanie and Milsha's models from time to time. I'm using that, one, to reference them, to make sure I got, their hair length right and stuff like that, but also, two, to make sure I've got their colors right. I'm pulling the colors straight from the models. I basically always do that, because for some reason my computers have never been great in terms of screen quality, and I don't want to accidentally get the wrong shade of whatever it is. So I've never been able to trust my eyes because my screen can't produce the proper color, it seems, because I've always had these really kind of crappy just laptops. I'd like to get a real computer, kind of working on making that happen. That'd be beneficial. Hair layer, I work with a lot of layers, which is one of my favorite parts about working digitally, is that my colors don't have to, I don't have to worry about things getting mixed together and having to go over the same thing, because I accidentally covered up the skin with the hair or whatever. Skin layer is always on the bottom, and hair is always on top. It's just how I taught myself to do it. Basically, everything, I'm basically self-taught. I did go to college for studio art with an emphasis in painting. But you can't, at that level, if you go into college aiming to major in illustration or artwork in any way, you kind of have to already know how to do it. Like, they're not going to teach you how to draw in college level classes, specifically anything above a 100 level. So yeah, I didn't take any art classes through from like middle school to high school, because I just hated all the teachers. So yeah, I'm basically just self-taught. An important thing, if you are also learning, an important thing to remember is that you need to be able to render it realistically first. And I don't mean do that thing where you're like a photorealistic illustrator, where you can just crank out images of hyper-realistic Robert Downey Jr. created with just a pencil and maybe some charcoal. You know, those are impressive, you know, but you need to understand the rules before you can break them. I see a lot of people trying to do very stylized artwork right off the bat, and that's fine. You know, we all like Tim Burton and stuff, and we all like stylized cartoons and everything, but you have to understand the rules that those styles are breaking in order for it to do it right. It's always, even if it's not your art style, it is always helpful to study other art styles, and especially real life. Real life is your best reference point. Here was the fun part. So we're in colors, of course, and Melanie was much easier because she's got all these, like, she's got 3 very clear different colors on her. She's got the white and the blue and silver. Easy peasy. Milsha was a bit harder just because it's like red and then dark red and then black. And I struggle a little bit with figuring out how to allocate the dark red and the black on Milsha. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. An important thing that I keep in mind, or at least I try to, is I don't want things to get lost in each other. So you'll see in a second here that I start to make the fluff on her collar and stuff, I start to make that black because I thought that would look good and I had an allocation in mind. But as I begin to do that here, it just blends in with her hair. And for a second I thought that was okay because her original outfit sort of did that. And then I thought, oh, I'll make it gray instead. And then I decided to hold on to the original color palette I had in mind and to just swap out what was gonna be black and make that dark red instead. And I was worried that that would be too much red kind of a thing. But I think it's a different enough shade that it ends up working well. And I think it looks better this way than if I had kept the idea of keeping the fluff black. That's another thing. You have to be willing to adapt as an artist. Sometimes your original plan isn't the best idea. You can't be afraid to change your mind. If you go in thinking, I'm just gonna do it this way, then you're limiting yourself. I don't show you that I didn't, for this illustration, I didn't just go in with a perfect plan in mind. I had ruminated for about a week or so on what to do with the twins' outfits. I don't usually illustrate, like, my thought processes. I tend to do that all just in my head while I'm at work and stuff. But yeah, there's a planning stage in design, and that's very important. It's hard to just go in and make a character without any ideas in mind beforehand. There's no wrong way to do that step. Some people like to write out scripts for comics, or they'll draw little thumbnails, and some people will have just pages and pages of slightly different designs to figure out what exactly it is they want it to do. And that's all okay. I find that I tend to get lost in the details that way. I prefer to have the broad strokes kind of figured out in my head first, and then finding the minor details as I illustrated. Like, I didn't have the idea to put these fancy, like, belt accessories and hair accessories in at first. But as I was illustrating this and looking at Melanie and Milsha's original outfits, I was like, those feathers that's a really good accent and a fun minor detail, and I wanted to keep that in. So yeah, don't be afraid to play around with your ideas and experiment a little as you go. Another awkward moment of silence there. Their last name, Malachite, implies a shade of green. I think it's the shade of green that their eyes are. I think. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Malachite is green. That's why I gave them their fancy little chokers and made the gemstone in those green to kind of help pull a little bit more green into their outfits. I didn't want to overwhelm the blue and red, though. I felt like that was an important element to keep. Here's another one of my favorite parts. It's just adding shine to hair and metals and, like, the eyes. It just helps the characters come to life a little. Kind of makes them feel like they're just in a real area now, you know. Multiple levels of depth help immensely when it comes to bringing a character design to life, you know. I don't know how long this video is. It's close to 20 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Okay, I didn't want to just keep jabber-jawing past the videos until it finishes. Oh, I remember something I wanted to mention is I was really excited to add more elements, little minor elements rather, of red and white to their outfits. And I did that with the strings on their skirts. Then just a simple background. My computer was kind of overheating at that point, so I didn't record that part. But yeah, that was Melanie and Milsha. I hope you liked it, and I hope this video is good.